1. The Munich Massacre. In the early morning hours of September 5, 1972, the spirit of the Munich Games of Joy was shattered. 8 members of the Palestinian militant group, Black September, infiltrated the Olympic Village, which had notoriously lax security. They broke into the apartments housing the Israeli delegation, immediately killing wrestling coach Moshe Weinberg and weightlifter Yosef Romano as they resisted. The terrorists then took 9 other members of the Israeli team hostage. What followed was a tense 20-hour standoff, broadcast to a horrified global audience. The terrorists demanded the release of 236 Palestinian militants held in Israeli prisons. The crisis culminated in a disastrously planned and executed rescue attempt by West German police at Fürstenfeldbruck Air Base. During the chaotic firefight, all 9 remaining Israeli hostages were murdered by their captors. 5 of the terrorists and 1 West German police officer were also killed. The Munich Massacre remains the single deadliest event in modern Olympic history. 2. The unseen collision. The 1964 Winter Olympics in Innsbruck, Austria, were shrouded in tragedy before they even began. On a training day for the men's downhill ski race, 19-year-old Australian Ross Milne was descending the course at high speed. An accomplished skier and the reigning Australian champion, Milne was familiar with the demands of the sport. According to his team manager, the practice course had become dangerously crowded with other skiers, some of whom had stopped in an area that was not intended for it. In a split-second decision, Milne swerved to avoid colliding with the group of stationary athletes. The evasive maneuver sent him off the prepared course. He crashed into a tree just off the edge of the run. Milne sustained catastrophic head injuries and was airlifted to a nearby hospital, but he was declared dead on arrival. His death was a stark reminder of the razor-thin margin for error in high-speed winter sports. 3. The Luge's fatal debut. Just days before Ross Milne's death at the 1964 Innsbruck Games, another life was lost on the Luge track, which was making its Olympic debut. Kazimierz Kai Skrzypecki, a 58-year-old Polish-born slider representing Great Britain, was a former Royal Air Force pilot who had taken up the sport late in life. During a training run on the new Olympic course, he lost control of his sled. The sled shot off the track, causing a horrific crash. Kai Skrzypecki survived the initial impact, but sustained multiple severe injuries, including a fractured skull and pelvis. He was rushed into emergency surgery, but his heart stopped during the operation the following day. The back-to-back training deaths of Kai Skrzypecki and Milne cast a dark shadow over the Innsbruck Games, prompting immediate safety reviews and modifications to both the luge and downhill courses before the competitions officially began. 4. The Cyclist's collapse. The 100-kilometer team time trial at the 1960 Rome Olympics was held in brutally hot conditions. Danish cyclist Knud Enemark Jensen was part of a 4-man team competing for a medal. During the race, as the team pushed their physical limits, Jensen began to show signs of distress. About 20 kilometers from the finish line, he collapsed, falling from his bike and fracturing his skull on the pavement. He was transported to a hospital but died later that day. Initially, his death was attributed solely to heat stroke from the extreme temperatures. However, the tragedy soon became enveloped in one of the earliest Olympic doping scandals. A team doctor later admitted to having given Jensen and his teammates a vasodilator, a substance intended to improve blood circulation. While the official cause of death remained a skull fracture caused by heat stroke, the controversy surrounding the potential role of performance-enhancing drugs in his collapse led the International Olympic Committee to institute mandatory drug testing, which began at the 1968 Games. 5. The Marathon of Sun and Wax. At the 1912 Stockholm Olympics, Portuguese marathon runner Francisco Lázaro was determined to make his mark. A carpenter by trade, he was his country's flag bearer and a national champion, accustomed to running in warm conditions. On the day of the marathon under a scorching sun, Lázaro employed a common but dangerous tactic of the era to prevent sunburn. He coated his body in wax. He believed this would also improve his performance by reducing perspiration. The strategy backfired catastrophically. The wax blocked his pores, preventing his body from cooling itself naturally. At the 30-kilometer mark of the race, his body's core temperature soared, leading to a massive electrolyte imbalance. He collapsed on the course and was rushed to a hospital with a body temperature of 105.8 degrees Fahrenheit, 41 degrees Celsius. Despite efforts to save him, Francisco Lázaro never regained consciousness and died the following morning, becoming the first athlete to die during a modern Olympic competition. 6. The hidden snowcat speed. Skiing was a demonstration sport at the 1992 Winter Olympics in Albertville, France, showcasing athletes hurtling down a mountain at speeds over 130 miles per hour. On the morning of the event finals, Swiss skier Nicolas Bochatai, the reigning national champion, was warming up with teammates on a public slope adjacent to the official course. As the group skied over a small crest in the hill, they caught air. What they couldn't see was that a large snow grooming machine, a Snowcat, was positioned just behind the blind rise. Bochatai's teammate managed to avoid the vehicle, but Bochatai landed directly in its path, crashing into the machine with tremendous force. Though conflicting reports emerged about whether the vehicle was moving or stationary, the result was undisputed. Nicolas Bochatai was killed instantly from massive internal injuries, a shocking and tragic accident that occurred just hours before he was set to compete for a medal. 7. The Atlanta bombing. During the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, Centennial Olympic Park was created as a central gathering place for spectators, a town square, for the Games. On July 27th, thousands of people were enjoying a late-night concert in the park. Shortly after midnight, domestic terrorist Eric Rudolph planted a green military-style pack containing 3 pipe bombs laden with nails under a bench near the concert's sound tower. Security guard Richard Jewell discovered the suspicious package and began clearing the area. However, the bomb detonated before the evacuation was complete. The blast sent nails flying through the crowd, killing 44-year-old Alice Hawthorne and injuring 111 others. A Turkish cameraman, Melih Uzunol, also died from a heart attack as he rushed to the scene. The bombing cast a pall over the Games and triggered a massive investigation that initially and incorrectly focused on the heroic security guard, Richard Jewell, before Rudolph was identified as the perpetrator years later. 8. The final turn. On the very day of the opening ceremony for the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics, the Luge competition was already marked by tragedy. During a final training run at the Whistler Sliding Center, 21-year-old Georgian luger Nodar Kumaritashvili was navigating the notoriously fast track. Athletes had expressed concerns about the track's high speeds, which were pushing the limits of the sport. As Kumaritashvili came through the final turn, known as Thunderbird, traveling at nearly 90 miles per hour, 143.6 kilometers per hour, he lost control. His sled shot up the icy wall, flinging him over the protective barrier and into a row of unpadded steel support poles lining the track. Medics were at his side instantly, but his injuries were catastrophic. He was airlifted to a hospital but was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The incident horrified the global Olympic community, leading to immediate modifications to the track and a renewed focus on athlete safety in sliding sports. 9. The boxer's infection. At the 1936 Berlin Olympics, Romanian boxer Nicolae Bereșe competed in the featherweight division. He fought his preliminary match against Evald Seberg of Estonia, but lost the bout. A few days after the fight, Bereșe fell gravely ill. He was admitted to a hospital where his condition rapidly deteriorated. The official cause of his death was recorded as sepsis, or blood poisoning, which stemmed from an infected carbuncle. While the official report did not link his death directly to the boxing match, there was widespread speculation at the time, and in the years since, that his immune system may have been weakened or that injuries sustained in the ring could have contributed to the severity of the infection. His death was a somber event at a Games already fraught with political tension, and it remains one of the few instances of a competitor dying from illness during the Olympic period.